I used to travel a lot for work as a pharmaceutical sales rep, and the holidays were actually one of my busiest times because I had to visit clients before the end of the fiscal year. Most of the time, I stayed at cheap hotels because the company had strict travel budgets, and I didn't really care as long as the place was clean. Nothing weird ever happened to me at any hotel before, so I never really thought about danger or strange people. That changed during a trip I took right before Christmas to a small town in upstate New York. I checked into an old inn that looked charming from the outside, with Christmas lights strung along the roof and wreaths on the doors. Inside, the lobby had dark wood paneling and a small decorated tree in the corner, but the place smelled musty, like old carpet and mothballs. The elderly woman at the front desk handed me an actual metal key attached to a wooden tag with my room number carved into it. She told me in a quiet voice that checkout was at 10 and that I was one of only 3 guests staying there that night. Most people went home for the holidays, she explained. I took my rolling suitcase up the creaky stairs to the second floor. The hallway was narrow with floral wallpaper that looked like it hadn't been changed since the 70s. My room was at the end of the hall. When I opened the door, the room looked dated but clean enough. There was a full bed with a thick quilt, a small TV on a dresser, and a bathroom with vintage tile. I set my suitcase down and turned on the TV for background noise. I was exhausted from driving through snow for 6 hours. After taking a hot shower to warm up, I got into bed around 11 at night. I woke up maybe an hour later because I heard Christmas music playing faintly. At first, I thought it was coming from another room or maybe from downstairs in the lobby. It sounded like an old recording of carolers singing. I was half asleep and tried to ignore it, but then the music got slightly louder. It was definitely coming from somewhere close by. I sat up and listened more carefully. The singing was coming from right outside my door in the hallway. I got up and walked over to the peephole. I looked through, but the hallway was dark. The inn must have turned off the hall lights after a certain time to save electricity. I couldn't see anything clearly, just darkness. The singing continued. It sounded like multiple voices, but they were singing in this slow, deliberate way that didn't sound quite right. The melody was familiar, but the timing was off, like they were dragging out each word too long. I called out and asked if someone needed something, but got no response. The singing just continued at the same strange pace. After about a minute, it stopped abruptly. I stood at the door listening, but heard nothing else. I went back to bed, but left the lamp on. My heart was beating faster now, and I felt too awake to fall back asleep. About 15 minutes went by before I heard footsteps in the hallway. They were slow and heavy, like someone wearing boots. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. I sat up in bed and stared at the door. Then I heard something that made my skin crawl. It was the sound of someone humming a Christmas carol right outside my door. Just one person humming very quietly. I asked again who was there, but nobody answered. The humming continued for maybe 30 seconds, then stopped. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and thought about calling the front desk, but I wasn't sure if anyone would even be awake at that hour. The old woman who checked me in seemed like she lived on the property and might have gone to bed. The silence stretched out, and I started to think maybe whoever it was had walked away. But then I heard the sound that changed everything. It was a key sliding into my door lock. I froze completely. The key turned, and I heard the old lock mechanism click. The doorknob started to turn. I jumped out of bed and ran to the door. Thank God I'd locked it from the inside with the deadbolt, because that stopped the door from opening. I could see the doorknob turning and the door pushing slightly against the frame, trying to open. I yelled loudly, asking who was there and what they wanted. The doorknob stopped turning. The door pulled shut again from the outside. I stood there shaking, trying to figure out what to do. I looked through the peephole, but it was too dark to see anything. I pressed my ear against the door and listened. I could hear breathing on the other side, slow and raspy breathing like someone standing right there. After maybe 20 seconds, I heard footsteps walking away down the hallway toward the stairs. I waited another few minutes, then quickly got dressed and packed my suitcase. I wasn't going to stay in that room.
I unlocked the deadbolt as quietly as I could and opened the door slowly. The hallway was pitch black. I used my phone flashlight to see. The hallway was empty. I walked quickly to the stairs and went down to the lobby. The lobby was dark too, except for the glow from the Christmas tree lights. Nobody was at the front desk. I thought about leaving my key, but I just wanted to get out. I went to the front door and tried to open it, but it was locked. There was a deadbolt that required a key from the inside. My stomach dropped. I was locked in. I went back to the front desk and rang the bell sitting there. I rang it several times. After what felt like a forever, the old woman came out from a back room wearing a Rathbobe. She looked annoyed that I'd woken her up. I told her someone had tried to get into my room with a key and I needed to leave right now. She stared at me for a second, then said that was impossible because she was the only one with keys to the rooms. I insisted someone had used a key on my lock. She said I must have been dreaming or confused. I told her I needed her to unlock the front door so I could leave. She asked if I wanted a refund, and I said I didn't care, I just needed to leave. She walked very slowly to the front door and unlocked it with a key from her robe pocket. I thanked her and walked out into the cold night. My car was parked right in front of the inn. I threw my suitcase in the back seat and got in. I locked the doors immediately and started the engine. As I was pulling out, I looked back at the inn. I could see a figure standing in one of the second-floor windows. It looked like someone in dark clothing, just standing there, perfectly still, watching me leave. The window was 3 rooms down from mine. I drove away as fast as I felt safe doing on the snowy roads. I found a chain hotel about 30 minutes away near the highway and checked in there. I barely slept the rest of the night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that slow, off-key singing. The next morning, I tried calling the inn to report what happened, but nobody answered. I called 3 times throughout the day. No answer. I looked up the inn online later and found some old reviews mentioning strange experiences. One person said they heard singing in the hallways at night. Another person said they felt like someone was watching them. The inn is still operating as far as I know, but I'll never go back there. What bothers me most is that the old woman had to be lying. Someone had a key to my room and she was the only one who could have given it to them. Unless someone who used to work there still had keys. Either way, that place wasn't safe, and I don't understand how it's still in business.
I work as a freelance photographer, so my schedule is pretty flexible, and I often travel during holidays when rates are cheaper. A few years ago, right after Christmas, I decided to take a solo trip to Vermont to photograph some winter landscapes. I booked a room at a small lodge in a mountain town because the photos online looked beautiful and the price was reasonable for the off-season. When I arrived on December 27th, the parking lot was almost empty. The lodge was decorated with Christmas lights and garland, but it had this sad end-of-holiday feel to it, like a party that was already over. I checked in during the late afternoon, and the man at the front desk seemed tired but friendly enough. He mentioned most guests had checked out after Christmas, and I'd probably have the second floor mostly to myself. My room was at the end of a long hallway on the second floor. The hallway had dark green carpet and wooden walls with vintage ski posters hung along the corridor. When I opened the door, my room looked cozy, with a queen bed covered in a thick plaid comforter, a stone fireplace that didn't work anymore, and a large window overlooking the snowy woods. I unpacked my camera equipment and settled in for the evening. I planned to wake up early the next morning to catch sunrise photos. I ordered room service for dinner and ate while watching TV. Around 9 at night, I decided to take a shower before bed. When I came out of the bathroom, the room felt significantly colder than before. I checked the thermostat and it was set to 70 degrees, but the room felt more like 50. I adjusted it higher and waited to see if the heat would kick in. I got into bed and tried to warm up under the heavy comforter. The room had a large closet near the bathroom, and the door was slightly ajar. I'm pretty sure I'd closed it earlier, but I couldn't remember for certain. I got up and closed it fully, then got back into bed. I fell asleep around 10:30. I woke up sometime in the middle of the night because I heard music playing. It took me a few seconds to register what I was hearing. It was Christmas music. Specifically, it sounded like an old music box playing a slow, teeny version of Silent Night. I sat up and tried to figure out where the sound was coming from. It seemed to be coming from inside my room. The music was faint, but definitely inside the room, not from another room or the hallway. I turned on the bedside lamp and looked around. The music continued playing that same slow, haunting melody. I got out of bed and tried to locate the source. It seemed to be coming from the closet area. I walked over to the closet and opened the door. The music got slightly louder. I looked inside, but all I could see were the extra pillows and blankets on the shelf and the few wooden hangers. Then I noticed something that made my stomach turn. There was a small music box sitting on the floor in the back corner of the closet. It was old and decorative with faded paint. The lid was open, and the mechanism inside was turning, playing that slow version of Silent Night. I definitely had not put that there. I hadn't even looked in the back corner of the closet when I arrived. I stood there staring at it, trying to understand how it got there. The music box slowly wound down and stopped playing. The sudden silence was almost worse than the music. I backed away from the closet and grabbed my phone. I thought about calling the front desk, but it was probably 2 or 3 in the morning, and I wasn't sure what I would even say. I decided to just take the music box and put it outside my room so I wouldn't have to hear it if it started playing again. I reached down to pick it up, and the moment my hand touched it, the music started playing again, on its own. I jerked my hand back. Music boxes don't work like that. They need to be wound up. This one just started playing the moment I touched it. I left it there and backed out of the closet. I closed the closet door and pushed a chair in front of it. I sat on the bed with my phone, trying to decide what to do. I didn't want to stay in the room, but I also felt ridiculous about being scared of a music box. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe housekeeping had left it there by accident. Maybe it had been in the closet the whole time and I just didn't notice it earlier. But that didn't explain how it started playing on its own in the middle of the night, or how it started again when I touched it. After about 20 minutes of sitting there in silence, I heard something that made my blood run cold. It was the sound of the closet door opening. I heard the chair scrape slightly against the floor as the door pushed against it. I stared at the chair and watched it move a few inches. The closet door was opening from the inside, pushing the chair out of the way. The music started playing again from inside the closet, that slow, haunting version of Silent Night. I grabbed my car keys and my coat and left the room immediately. I didn't even take my camera equipment or my suitcase. I just ran. I went down the stairs to the lobby. The front desk was empty. I rang the bell on the counter over and over. After maybe 2 minutes, the same man from earlier came out from a back office looking confused and annoyed. I told him something was wrong with my room and I needed a different room right now. He asked what was wrong, and I explained about the music box. He gave me this look like he thought I was crazy. He said there shouldn't be any music box in the room, and housekeeping didn't leave personal items in guest rooms. I insisted I wasn't making it up, and he finally agreed to come up and check the room with me. We went back upstairs together. When we opened my room, everything looked normal. The chair was still in front of the closet where I'd left it. The man moved the chair and opened the closet door. He looked inside and turned back to me with a confused expression. He said there was nothing in there. I pushed past him and looked.
The closet was empty, except for the pillows and blankets on the shelf and the hangers. The music box was gone. I got down on my hands and knees and checked the back corner where I'd seen it. Nothing. Not even dust or marks to show something had been sitting there. The man asked if I'd been drinking or if I'd taken any medication that might cause confusion. I told him no, I was completely sober and I knew what I saw. He offered to give me a different room, but he seemed skeptical about the whole thing. I said yes, I wanted a different room. He took me down the hall to a room near the stairs. I went back to my original room with him and grabbed my suitcase and camera bag. I moved to the new room and locked the door. The new room had the same layout, but it faced the parking lot instead of the woods. I checked every corner, including the closet, before sitting down on the bed. It was probably close to 4 in the morning at this point. I was exhausted, but too scared to sleep. I sat there until the sun started coming up around 7. Then I packed everything and went downstairs to check out. A different person was working the front desk, a young woman who looked like she'd just started her shift. I handed her my key card and she processed my checkout. As I was leaving, I asked her if other guests had ever complained about strange things in the rooms. She gave me an odd look and asked what I meant. I told her about the music box. Her expression changed. She got very quiet and then said in a low voice that I should look up the lodge's history. She said something had happened there a long time ago during Christmas. She wouldn't give me details, but she said other guests had reported similar experiences. I left and drove straight home. When I got back, I looked up the lodge online. I found an old newspaper article from December 1982. A family had been staying at the lodge over Christmas when their 8-year-old daughter went missing. She was found 3 days later in the woods behind the lodge. She'd frozen to death. The article mentioned she'd brought a music box with her on the trip, a Christmas music box that played Silent Night. Her parents said she carried it everywhere. I felt sick reading it. I don't know if what I experienced was related to that tragedy, but the timing and the music box seemed like too much of a coincidence. I've never gone back to that lodge, and I never will.